Have you ever wondered how one of the biggest clubs in football history ended up becoming a symbol of frustration, disappointment, and internet memes? Yes, I'm talking about them. The legendary Manchester United. A club that was once the pride of England, that dominated the Premier League with almost imperial authority. And today, more often than not, is remembered more for the memes than for the trophies. But hold on. In this video, we're going to understand together why Manchester United became a mediocre team. And look, there's a lot behind it. It's mismanagement, its owners exploiting the club, managers getting burned out, and much, much more. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with that friend who still defends United with everything they've got. Because what's coming now is heavy, and it might hurt, but it's the truth. To start this story, we need to go back in time to 2005. That was the year the Glazer family from the United States bought the club. And how did they do it? With a type of deal called a leveraged buyout. In other words, they basically bought the club with borrowed money and dumped all the debt onto United itself. Yes, you heard that right. United, which until then was a financially healthy club, suddenly found itself holding a massive debt, around £600 million, and from that point on, the silent downfall of a giant began. While Sir Alex Ferguson was still in charge, the club kept winning, and that covered up a lot of the internal issues. But once he retired in 2013, the curtain fell, and what the world saw was shocking. The Glazers' management proved to be disastrous. They spent years draining money from the club with no investment in infrastructure, no planning for the future, and no real interest in football itself. Meanwhile, Old Trafford, the club's iconic stadium, slowly began to fall apart, with leaks in the roof, parts of the structure in need of renovation, and even rat infestations in certain areas. That's right, rats, in the stadium of one of the richest clubs in the world. And all this happened while the Glazers were cashing out millions in dividends every single year. During this time, over £1 billion were spent on bank interest, administrative fees, and payouts to the owners themselves. Money that could have been used to renovate the stadium, improve the training facilities, or sign players with a long-term plan. But no, it was simply drained away. And then comes another key figure in this story, E.D. Woodward. This guy took over as CEO after Ferguson retired, and he had zero football experience. He was a finance and marketing guy, a salesman of sponsorship deals, an expert at landing contracts with watch brands and tire manufacturers. But football, not at all. And when you put someone like that in charge of the sporting side of one of the most important clubs in history, what do you think happens? Exactly, a complete disaster. Under Woodward's leadership, United started signing extremely expensive players with no footballing logic. It was as if the club were building a FIFA or Football Manager team on random mode. Angel Di Maria, Alexis Sanchez, Paul Pogba, Romelu Lukaku. Tens and tens of millions of pounds spent on big names, but with no tactical plan or long-term vision. And when things went wrong, which was almost always, the club would sack the manager and start all over again. There were multiple managers in just over a decade. David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Ralf Rangnick, and most recently, Erik ten Hag. Each manager with a different idea, a different style, a different system, and no continuity. The result? A squad that's disjointed, demotivated, and lacking identity. And as if the chaos on the pitch and the financial bleeding weren't enough, the relationship with the fans also turned into a war zone. In 2021 came the final straw. The Glazers backed the creation of the European Super League, that ridiculous idea of a closed league with only rich clubs, no relegation, no sporting merit. The fans erupted in anger. There were massive protests, including an invasion of Old Trafford that led to the postponement of a match against Liverpool. It was the first time in Premier League history that a match was postponed due to fan protests, and the message was clear: enough. Fans were tired of seeing the club treated like a cold business, no soul, no passion. But do you think that was enough to change anything? Of course not. The Glazers stayed in power, the chaos continued, and the results on the pitch, they just got worse. In the 2024-2025 season alone, United suffered 16 defeats in the Premier League. 16! It was the club's worst season in terms of defeats since the league was founded. And you know what's even sadder? Seeing the club being humiliated by mediocre opponents and their players looking lost, apathetic, without desire. It's not just about the results, it's about identity. Do you remember what Manchester United was like during the Ferguson era? It was an intense, fast offensive team that turned impossible games around, that fought until the end. Today, it looks like a team with no soul. René Meulenstein, Ferguson's former assistant, summed it all up in one sentence: United lost its essence. And that's exactly right. The club lost what made it feared around the world. It lost the fighting spirit, it lost the winning culture, it lost the respect. And we keep going, because the hole is much deeper. If you think everything we've talked about so far has been heavy, hold on. Manchester United has become a champion of promises that never come to fruition. A true factory of frustrated expectations. Let's talk about signings. Since Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement in 2013 until the start of the 2024-2025 season, the club spent over £1.5 billion on new players. That's right, £1.5 billion. But the question is, which of these players really justified that investment? How many of them became legends, idols, or references? The answer is sad. Very few. Paul Pogba came back as the club's most expensive signing and left again through the back door between injuries, controversies, and disappointing performances. Alexis Sanchez arrived with an astronomical salary and barely managed to play well for a month in a row. Harry Maguire was signed for £80 million and became an international joke. Today, he's remembered more for his grotesque mistakes and memes than any technical contribution. And there was Jadon Sancho, Antony, Donny van de Beek, Memphis Depay, Angel Di Maria, Radamel Falcao. The list is long, my friend, and the pattern is the same. Lots of money, little football. And then I ask you, how can a club with one of the biggest incomes in the world be so incompetent when it comes to building a competitive team? The answer lies in the lack of a clear sporting plan. While other clubs, like Manchester City, Liverpool, and even Arsenal, followed cohesive projects with well-defined technical directions, United became a Frankenstein of poorly executed ideas. Every manager that came in tried to impose their philosophy, but didn't receive time or support to solidify it. Louis van Gaal wanted ball possession and tactical control. He didn't get the backing. Jose Mourinho wanted experience and solidity. He was sabotaged behind the scenes. Solskjaer wanted to rebuild the club's identity, but didn't have the pieces for it. Ten Hag came with a modern proposal, but saw the structural chaos swallow his work. It's a cycle of self-destruction, an endless loop of expectation, frustration, and starting over. A constant, now it's going to happen, that never will. And in the middle of this circus is the fan base. The largest fan base in the world, a sea of passionate people who fill Old Trafford even in the saddest of times, who travel all over England and Europe just to watch their team suffer. And what does this fan base get in return? Pain, anger, and a constant feeling that the club is being buried alive. James, with increasing energy. But listen carefully. Not everything is statistics and finances. The decline of United also comes from something much deeper. The loss of the winning culture. What Sir Alex Ferguson built in 26 years in charge went far beyond titles. He created a mindset, a myth, a DNA. It was the club that produced leaders on the field: Roy Keane, Gary Neville, Ryan Giggs, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, guys who did not accept losing, who fought for every ball as if it were the last. Today, what you see are apathetic, complacent players who are content with million-dollar contracts and millions of Instagram followers. And that, my friend, can't be bought, can't be invented. Either you have it or you don't. The United locker room has become a toxic environment, full of vanity, cliques, and disrespect for hierarchy. Just look at what happened recently with Jadon Sancho, who publicly challenged the manager, or with Cristiano Ronaldo, who left through the back door after criticizing the club. The truth is, Manchester United today is an institution without command, without leadership, and without pride. And even when the club gets something right, it feels like the universe finds a way to mess it up. Take the case of Rasmus Højlund, the promising Danish striker signed for €75 million. The kid showed talent, scored goals, worked hard, but was thrown into an absurd pressure cooker with no structure around him and no patience for him to grow. The pressure is instant, the atmosphere is heavy, and the result? Demotivation, injuries, and drops in performance. It's a vicious circle, and it seems like Manchester United can't get out of it. James, in a more serious tone, almost whispering, and here comes the question that nobody likes to ask. But I'm going to ask it. Has Manchester United become a mediocre team? If we look at the club's structure today, yes. If we look at the mentality of the players, yes. If we look at the sporting performance, the recent trophies, the respect from opponents, unfortunately, yes. United, which was once synonymous with greatness, has become an example of how mismanagement can destroy even the biggest clubs. But is there hope? Yes, there's always hope. And in the next part, we're going to explore whether there's still light at the end of the tunnel, or if Manchester United has already sunk too deep into mediocrity. Now it's time for the truth. It's time to face the elephant in the room that no one at the top of the club seems willing to see, because for Manchester United to be great again, it first needs to admit that it has become small. Yes, you heard that right. The greatest club in England in domestic titles now thinks like a mid-tier club when the fans start celebrating a Champions League spot like it's a trophy. When winning, the League Cup becomes a reason to make a DVD. When the club's mantra is, "We're in a rebuild," for over 10 years, there's something very wrong going on. And no, the problem is not just technical, tactical, or financial. The biggest enemy of Manchester United today is Manchester United itself. The club lives in the past, clings to its history, but refuses to face the present. Ferguson has retired. Giggs isn't coming back. Neither is Rooney. Neither is Scholes. Neither is Vidic. The golden era is over, and it will only return if a new one is built from scratch. No shortcuts, no camouflage, no tradition shields. And you know what's the most terrifying part of all this? If nothing changes, Manchester United could end up in the same hole where historic clubs like Milan at the end of the 2000s and Hamburg in Germany have sunk. Giant clubs that, due to mismanagement, became mere shadows of what they were. And honestly, if things keep going the way they are, that's where United is heading. Old Trafford has turned into a stadium full of nostalgia and empty of football. The stands shout, but the pitch whispers. The shirt is still heavy, but those who wear it no longer feel that weight like before. And then we come back to the question that drove this video: why has Manchester United become a mediocre team? The answer is complex but clear: because it lost its way, because it surrendered to vanity, because it abandoned its identity, and because today it prefers to invest in marketing rather than in football. But if you think everything is lost, let me tell you something. Manchester United is still a sleeping giant. The structure is still there. The fan base is loyal. The history is enormous. But to wake up, somebody needs to shake up the club. Someone needs to have the courage to change everything, to break away from the Glazers, to build a real football management board, to sign players based on planning, not on likes or agents, to rebuild the winning DNA from the ground up. Until that happens, Manchester United will continue being what we're seeing now, a giant club made up of mediocre choices. And the saddest part is that many people still haven't understood this. Now answer me in the comments. Is Manchester United still a giant, or has it just become a legend of the past? And if you liked this video, you know the drill. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, share it with everyone. And of course, don't miss the next video that's already on the screen. Click here and keep going with us, because we still have lots of football stories to tell. I'm James, and I'll see you in the next video. We're in this together, football lovers.